A very good evening, dear viewers. Welcome to the English News Bulletin here on Rwanda Television. We believe that you had a good start of the week. Now let's kick off today's bulletin with the headlines. Analysts say the opportunities arising from the partnership between Rwanda and the Central African Republic have opened new market access for Rwandan businesses. On Monday, 213 Rwandans were repatriated from the Democratic Republic of Congo. My name is Olive Nete, and it's always a pleasure to have you on board. Now let's kick off today's edition. Analysts say the opportunities arising from the partnership between Rwanda and the Central African Republic have opened new market access for Rwandan businesses. Adam Squizera kicks us off tonight.
On Sunday evening, President Paul Kagame met with President Faustin Archange Touadera of the Central African Republic, who was in Rwanda for a two-day working visit. They discussed on existing cooperation, including Rwanda's ongoing support through the RDF troops serving under the existing bilateral security agreement, as well as those serving in the UN mission. The two heads of state also exchanged on the opportunities to strengthen bilateral cooperation through collaboration in various sectors of mutual benefit for the people of the Central African Republic and Rwanda. In 2021, the Central African Republic granted Rwanda 70,500 hectares of land for agriculture development. This partnership has encouraged some Rwandans to invest directly in the country. Twagireye's Olive, a Rwandan teacher living in the Central African Republic, capital's Bangui, shares that this cooperation has created opportunities for Rwandans.
Activities here move swiftly. I am a teacher, and this profession enables me to support and develop my family, just like others in the trade sector.
In the area of trade and investment, in February 2024, the government of the Central African Republic announced that the value of investments between the two countries had surpassed to $250 million. Economic expert François Kanimba says this reflects a partnership that has grown beyond security cooperation, expanding strongly into trade and investment.
Ibyo rero byatumye abanyarwanda muri Afrika yo hagati iyo hageze ukavuga ko uri umunyarwanda.
When you arrive in the Central African Republic and introduce yourself as a Rwandan, people genuinely become happy for you and trust you. They know that Rwanda is a country that played a significant role in helping them move from conflict to peace and toward unity and development. There are also Rwandans working in different sectors such as trade, who have explored the opportunities available there. Kanimba also notes that this partnership reinforces Africa's broader vision of developing homegrown solutions to its challenges. Where Rwanda began to position itself on this agenda was through partnerships with the countries directly concerned by these issues. Over time, Rwanda has built strongly capacity within its defense forces, drawing from our socio-historical experience and the journey we've taken as a nation. This has given Rwanda a distinct and credible vision in peacekeeping and offering a model for the future of peace missions in Africa. It is a pathway that can serve as an example and be considered in other contexts as well. Since 2021, Rwandan investors have increasingly ventured into the Central African Republic, investing in infrastructure development, commerce, and other sectors. Adam Squizera, RTV News.
Moving ahead, Rwanda's Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Ambassador Olivier Nduhungirehe, is in Rwanda, Angola, where he is representing Rwanda at the 7th African Union-European Union Summit. This two-day summit has brought together around 80 heads of state and government, with their discussions focusing on the theme advancing peace and prosperity through effective multilateralism. The President of the European Council, Antonio Costa, pointed out that the relations between Europe and Africa are strong and has a clear vision for the future. Meanwhile, the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, stated that this summit demonstrates the commitment of Europe and Africa to join efforts in building a better future. Among the 7 summits held between two unions, this is the third to take place on the African continent, after the one held in Cairo, Egypt in 2000 and the one held in Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire in 2017. To local matters, the Deputy Speaker of the Chamber of Deputies in charge of Parliamentary Affairs, Belin Wineza, called on the relevant institutions to speed up the preparation of the plans that identify designated residential areas and the infrastructure that goes with them, both in urban and rural settings, in order to improve housing standards and ensure proper planning. On Monday, members of the Parliament began nationwide field visits in all districts aimed at monitoring government activities with a special focus on urban development, housing, and land use. Nyagatare district is one of the districts hosting secondary cities that support the city of Kigali. And on the first day of the visit, Deputy Speaker Wineza Belin and her delegation toured various completed projects in Nyagatare city, including roads, the main market, and the bus terminal. They also visited the industrial park located in Taraka, Nyagatare sector, and residents of the city expressed their appreciation for the various development projects brought by the government, although they noted some areas that still need more attention. Nyagatare city covers an area of 82 square kilometers with more than 25 kilometers of asphalt roads already constructed. The city is also building a public park that will offer free internet, providing a place where residents and visitors can relax. The Deputy Speaker, Wineza Belin, said that these achievements illustrate the growing modernization of urban areas. Urban development and modern housing are among the pillars of Rwanda's Vision 2050, which emphasizes investing in key infrastructure to support urbanization and promote modern settlement patterns. Deputy Speaker of the Chamber of Deputies in charge of Parliamentary Affairs, Belin Wineza, noted that achieving these goals requires significant effort from all relevant institutions. The revised National Urbanization Policy approved in February 2025 projects that Rwanda's urban population will increase from 27.9% in 2022 to 52.7% in 2035 and 70% by 2050. The field visits undertaken by members of the Parliament, which started on Monday, will conclude on the 29th of this month across all provinces. In Kigali City, the visits will take place on December 5th and 6th, 2025, covering all 237 sectors in the country. Afterward, the plenary session of the Chamber of Deputies will adopt a report that will be presented to the government in order to jointly address the issues raised by citizens. Now to the justice sector, the Supreme Court has issued new guidelines aimed at removing obstacles and loopholes that had been observed in justice provided to children. The court notes that in some instances, minors were being given custodial sentences even when the offenses committed could have been addressed through alternative measures such as counseling. Take a look at the details. Juveniles at the Nyagatare Rehabilitation Center report that their welfare is well attended to and that they receive necessary services, including access to education. When I arrived here, I made a promise to myself to keep studying. I told myself that once I complete my education, I will look for ways to achieve my dreams. Our country values knowledge, and education is essential in building a strong and developed future for our nation. All the money I used to earn, I would waste it on things that didn't matter. But when I came here, they taught me how to save, how to work with others, and how to show love, respect, and discipline. All of that is thanks to the people who train and guide us here. Monique Mukamana, the Child Protection and Welfare Officer at the National Child Development Agency, explains what needs to be improved in the justice provided to children. What is not going well is that in many cases, juveniles do not have legal representation, even though every child has the right to an advocate in court. Often, it is difficult for them to find a lawyer, and when they do, the lawyer may not be fully informed about the case. As a result, some prioritize speeding up the proceedings rather than seeking the most appropriate solution for the child. Consequently, many juveniles become lost within the justice system because there is no one to clearly explain the legal process to them or what will happen next. Another concern is the inconsistent application of the law. Legally, a juvenile should only be sentenced to imprisonment when the offense committed carries a minimum penalty of 5 years. However, in practice, some minors are incarcerated for minor offenses such as petty theft, despite the availability of alternative non-custodial measures. The Vice President of the Supreme Court, Alphonse Hitiarimye, points out that the new guidelines set by the Ministry of Justice will help courts close the gaps that were observed in the justice provided to juveniles. It is often observed that children do not easily fit into the justice system, largely due to a range of underlying challenges, including their living conditions, upbringing, and social circumstances. Because of this, judges and all other actors within the justice system, when handling cases involving juveniles, should take these factors into careful consideration. The overall goal should be to guide them back onto the right path, not merely to punish them for the sake of punishment. Over the final 2 months of this year, these new Supreme Court guidelines on enhancing child-centered justice are being disseminated to all relevant institutions. They are expected to come into force at the beginning of the year 2026.
Ahead on Monday, 213 Rwandans were repatriated from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Those who returned say that the reason many men are not coming back is because they are still held hostage by the FDLR militia group, which restricts their freedom and spreads false information, claiming it intends to overthrow the government of Rwanda. And Gladys has a detailed report.
Since the beginning of 2025, nearly 6,000 Rwandans have been repatriated from the DRC. However, in most cases, the majority of returnees have been women and children. Even today, among the 213 returnees, very few were men. Those who returned confirmed that the low number of male returnees is due to many still being involved in armed groups that destabilize the region, including the FDLR terrorist group, which refuses to let them return and deceives them that it will capture Rwanda. Meanwhile, others are still influenced by false and frightening information, claiming that returning to Rwanda would put their lives in danger. It is difficult for them to agree to return home because when those FDLR soldiers find out, they treat them badly. That is why they tell their wives and children to go back home, and once they get there, they will also try to return.
Before, they used to give us dates saying that they would return home, that they would leave and bring us back. But instead, they abandoned us there. We wanted to come back, but they refused. When those people finally gathered us together to bring us home, that's when we started to face off. We realized they had basically been holding us hostage.
Prosper Muringwa, the mayor of Rubavu district, highlighted that although some still resist coming out of their forests, the testimonies of those already repatriated who are now living better lives will eventually reach them and encourage them to leave the forests as well.
Some of them will immediately call their husbands because they have arrived in Rwanda. They will give them testimonies, telling them that they have found peace here. They will also tell them about the efforts men in Rwanda are making to improve their lives. We believe that the testimonies from these returnees would be the ones that convince those who are still there.
Ritu Shroff, the UNHCR representative in Rwanda, who also welcomed the returnees, stated that based on communication with her colleagues working in areas controlled by the M23, the number of Rwandans returning is expected to increase significantly as efforts to reach them in eastern Congo and encourage their return continue.
We have the pastors, the faith leaders, community leaders working in the communities to inform them that there is, if they wish, only if they wish to go back to Rwanda, UNHCR is facilitating the returns to Rwanda, working closely with the DRC authorities and the Rwandese authorities. We don't go ourselves. The community members give them information. They also receive information from the Rwandese who have returned. They then come to a place where the government of DRC gives them more information. After that, they come to the UNHCR Transit Center in Goma, and there they're given a lot of information about the process, they go through a screening. We verify their nationality, we verify their place of origin, we make sure that they really wish to return. And after that, we share the pre-manifest with the Rwandan authority. We then continue to tell them, if you wish to go, you may. If you don't wish to go, you don't have to go. And then we bring them here in the convoys with the information.
The returnees are currently being accommodated at the Kijote Transit Camp in Nyabihu district, where they will stay for 2 weeks before being reintegrated into their families. They will also receive financial assistance to help them restart their normal lives.
Now, experts from the Forensic Department of the French Gendarmerie, a branch of the French Armed Forces, are in Rwanda conducting training for various institutions involved in providing forensic identification services. We have details on this story. The 5-day training focuses on how to respond during major disasters and how to identify large numbers of victims using modern technology known as disaster victim identification. Participants include personnel from security organs, the Ministry in charge of emergency management, the Rwanda Civil Aviation Authority, the Ministry of Local Government, the Ministry of National Unity and Civic Engagement, the Red Cross, and other emergency response institutions. The Director General of the Rwanda Forensic Institute, Dr. Charles Karangwa, pointed out that the training is crucial for improving operations and adopting advanced methods of collective forensic evidence. He added that it will help the Institute achieve international accreditation.
We are starting a training, a technical training. This training focusing especially on the case of mass fatality, especially in DVI, disaster victim identification. We have experts from abroad. They have expertise in management of a catastrophe, whether natural or not natural, so that after this we are expecting to have equip our technical personnel, our partners, intervenants here in Rwanda with the skills so that we can improve their way they are doing business. Rwanda already have their contingency plan they have been using in the case of management of catastrophe, but today we are aiming to go far, to have advanced standard of Interpol, but also because the village, the world becomes like a village, we are looking how can integrate a new technology, the latest technology, especially how can integrate in our process, in our management plan, 3D crime scene management, especially that can help to identify victims. And we are going to follow the whole chain of custody until we provide information to the family of victims.
The French ambassador to Rwanda, Aurélie Royer-Gounin, stated that cooperation between Rwanda and France will continue to expand through ongoing training programs that support the justice sector. When we provide training, we focus mainly on how to identify victims of disasters so that those trained can recognize and present the necessary evidence when needed, including for use in judicial processes. These trainings will also help Rwanda and France strengthen efforts to combat violence against women. The training program is based on a cooperation agreement between Rwanda and France and began with about 40 participants from various institutions. According to the trainers, it will contribute to capacity building and support Rwanda's efforts to reach high international standards in the use of forensic technology. And this story brings us to the end of tonight's bulletin, but if you're just joining, let's give you a recap of the stories that made this edition. And let's see the opportunities arising from the partnership between Rwanda and the Central African Republic have opened new market access for Rwandan businesses. On Monday, 213 Rwandans were repatriated from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And by this, we conclude tonight's edition. Thank you so much for joining us today. On behalf of the entire news team, we wish you a productive and fruitful week ahead. Goodbye.